Thank you. I want to thank the town for providing, oh, I'm sorry. We're still thankful to the town, but we'll wait just 1 minute. So again, we're still thankful to the town. This is great. Thank you to the candidates for coming here to address you personally tonight. And last but certainly not least, thank you to the audience for following online, for caring enough to learn more about these candidates. This is a big deal, getting to choose who makes the decisions that impact our day-to-day lives. And you are all to be commended for coming together here tonight to make this happen. We have 6 candidates competing for 3 seats. The seats are 2-year terms. The election will be held Saturday, September 9th from noon to 6 p.m. right here at Town Hall. Before I go any further, Cliff Gravier has left a message. Parking has been suspended tonight on Garfield Parkway from South Pennsylvania Avenue to Route 1. This includes street parking, the Stone parking lot, and the bank parking lot. If you receive a parking ticket, please bring it in the Town Hall to the front desk Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And no, that doesn't go for any speeding violations or anything else. Just stick with that. The candidates, we have Keith Brothers, Russell Evans, who is not here tonight, Teresa Keel, Jerry Morris, Patrick Shepley, and Mark Tanowitz. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your candidates for Bethany Beach Town Council. Each candidate has 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Then I'll ask them 3 broad questions, giving them each 2 minutes to answer. When their time gets down to 30 seconds, I will raise my hand as a signal. And when time expires, I will break in. It'll obviously be in an incredibly charming manner, I'm telling you right now. So following that, we will take audience questions until we're done here tonight. So, Mr. Brothers, I'm going to start you out with 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm Keith Brothers. I'm a retired Army colonel with over 35 years of service to the country. The last 15 years was in Washington with numerous positions with responsibilities in budget formulation, providing justification to Congress, and fiscally responsible for management of those resources. The other area of work that I was involved with during that time was in the Personnel Policy Department for the Department of the Army, and ensuring the development of policies that were in compliance with Army regulations and federal legislation. I'm here with my lovely wife, Amy, who has lived her entire life here in the Bethany community. Her family has been here since the 1640s. Ooh. They have worked and lived in the area, running a lumber mill. They own the general store. They have been in the chicken business, and her grandfather was even a local banker. I have been coming to the beach since 1998. During that time, we have owned multiple properties in different local communities: Dewey Beach, Rehoboth, Dagsboro, and Sea Colony. In the past, I've served on 3 homeowner board associations and have been president of 2. We have been property owners in Bethany since 2012 and full-time residents for the last 2.5 years, and raising our 13-year-old son, Hudson, here in town. I come as a new voice, hoping to add a new perspective and new energy to the hard work of those who have served and are serving the town currently.
Ms. Keel.
I'd like to start by thanking Coastal Point and the town of Bethany for hosting this event, and additionally thanks to everyone who is here in person and watching virtually. I'm Teresa Keel, and I'm running to be the next member of the Bethany Beach Town Council. My husband and I have owned our property since 2016, and we've lived here full-time since 2020. Prior to moving to Bethany full-time, I was a commercial real estate executive in Washington, D.C., where I was responsible for budgeting, financial reporting and management, contract and construction management, and tenant communications for a large number of office buildings in the DC area. I am running because my background makes me uniquely qualified for this position. I also believe it is important to have an additional woman's voice on the council. My volunteer service in the town includes being an original and active member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee. Specifically, that includes assisting in the development of the WAVE safety campaign, assisting with bicycle safety checkpoints with the Bethany Beach Police Department and DelDOT, volunteering at the Poseidon Festival and the 4th of July Parade, and assisting in the community's outreach to HOAs. Within the larger area, I'm a volunteer at the Delaware Center for the Inland Bays and the Art League of Ocean City. As a member of the Town Council, I will focus on the following issues: stormwater and tidal flooding, maintaining the sound financial condition of the town, and communications. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morris.
Thank you. My name's Jerry Morris. I'm a native of Delaware. Judy and I have 2 sons and 5 grandchildren, and have had owned a home in Bethany Beach since 1984. After a 45-year career in the DuPont Engineering Department, I retired as an engineering fellow in 2010. Judy and I then became full-time residents of Bethany. Shortly thereafter, I became an active member in the town government as a member of the Budget and Finance Committee, and since then I have served on the Planning and Zoning Commission, Charter and Ordinance Review Committee, Non-Residential Review Committee, and the 4th of July Committee. I've been privileged to serve as a member of the Town Council for 8 years, the last 6 years as Secretary Treasurer. To further my effectiveness as a public servant, I've earned 40 credit hours in engineering, local government, and leadership planning certificates from the University of Delaware. I also represent the Delaware League of Local Government on the State of Delaware's Recycling Committee. My current community activities involve volunteering at St. Anne's, the VFW, the Board of Directors of the Bethany Beach Farmers Market, and the President of the Canal Homeowners Association. In the past, I've been a board member of the BBLA, served Meals on Wheels, and worked on the Beach and Bay Cottage Tour. My main objective as a Secretary Treasurer is to keep Bethany financially sound. The rapid expansion around Bethany puts a strain on our infrastructure. Even with the limiting parking during the summer months, you all recognize that Bethany is always crowded. One of the biggest challenges we have is to make sure that the summer is paid for itself. We have to make sure that the parking fees, shuttle fees, real estate, and rental taxes support the summer activities and cause undue tax burden on you, the taxpayers. Thank you.
Mr. Shepley, please.
Thanks, Darren. Good evening. I want to start by thanking all of you for taking the time to attend tonight. My name is Patrick Shepley. My wife Karen and I have owned our house in Lake Bethany since 2000, and we are part-time residents. Our primary residence is in Columbia, Maryland, and we spend significant time here in Bethany Beach. I'm a CPA and spent my working career in both public practice and the private sector. For those of you with long memories, you might recall that 4 years ago at this same event, I talked about a comment that was made to me that, quote, I didn't have any skin in the game. Don't worry, I'm not going to repeat my response to that comment. But I am going to take the rest of my time now to let you know how much skin I do have in the game, and hopefully differentiate myself from some of the other candidates. I've spent the last 15 years directly involved in Bethany Beach. I began my involvement with my HOA, first as an elected member of our board of directors, and the last 12 years as treasurer. I still hold both of those positions today. I volunteer for several annual town events, the Beach and Bay Cottage Tour, Operation Seize the Day, and our 4th of July Parade. My wife and I have sold parade t-shirts on the boardwalk and have picked up trash along Route 1 on Earth Day. My direct involvement with the town began 11 years ago when I was appointed chairman of the Audit Committee, a position I held for 5 years. I also served on the Charter and Ordinance Review Committee. I'm currently on the 4th of July Parade and the Budget and Finance Committee, and I'm the chairman of the Telecommunications Committee. And finally, but what I think is most important, I was elected to Town Council in 2017 and have served on the council for the past 6 years. I highlight my involvement to give you something that will separate me in your mind from some of the other candidates, my experience within our great town. I hope that experience will warrant your consideration on September 9th. Thank you.
Mr. Tanowitz.
Like the other colleagues here at the table, I'd like to just thank everyone here, Coastal Point, the town of Bethany, for having this forum for us. Mr. Shepley, can I borrow your remarks, because those were excellent.
How about if I just give you page 1 and 3?
As someone who, like you, is not a full-time resident here, I think it's something you should consider as you listen to what we have to say tonight. My home, full-time, is in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm married to my wife, Alana, for a little over 20 years now. We have 3 boys, 2 dogs. She's been my only wife, and we've been homeowners here in Bethany since 2019, and we've been vacationing here since about 2012, 2013. And I'm here tonight, frankly, because of how proud I am of the work that the town council does, and I'm very impressed with it. From the minute we came to Bethany for the first time, it was really clear that this is a beautiful community. It's a little bit different than the other Delaware beaches, certainly different than the Maryland beaches, and it's different than the beaches in New Jersey. There is a sense of community here and a sense of authenticity that we don't see other places, and I think we need to preserve that, and I think the town council is a really, really big part of that. So when I put my hat in the ring this year and they said there were 3 seats available, the way I saw it is there's really only one. Mr. Edmondson isn't going to be in that chair. He needs to focus on his business. And I think Mr. Morris and Mr. Shepley should get their seats back because the council is very, very functional. And I just hope to add value to that. The things that are important to me are probably no different than the things that are important to you. I care about pedestrian and biker safety. I care about stormwater management, and I care about our local economy. I want to see more local businesses thrive. I want to see our summer revenue pay for our town for the year, and I want to see people bring their kids and their grandkids and their dogs and their friends here. What I don't want to see are some of the ruckus activity that we had July 4th, July 5th, and that's something I think we need to focus on going forward. I'm not sure exactly why it happened, but I think we all care enough about the community to make sure that we do some things differently and make sure it doesn't happen again and keep this place the safe community that we all love being in. Thank you.
First question, we're going to start with Ms. Keel tonight. What is your take on the current state of the town?
So, like everyone else here, I think Bethany's in great shape. Fiscally, it's certainly in great shape. The other sign for me of a thriving town is the number of people who are involved in the town. The number of people here tonight is one example of that. After the last election in 2020, 3 new committees were formed by the town council based mostly on the feedback that people gave during these forums and during the election. Stormwater management, pedestrian bicycle safety, and telecommunications. And that gave many people, including myself, an opportunity to join the town government and have a say in how the town is run and improve it for all of us. And that's what I think is great about Bethany.
Mr. Morris.
Bethany Beach is a unique little town, and financially, we are very stable. And that goes back to the history of the people who have been elected far before any of us. They used a conservative method of budgeting so that we can afford to do things that other towns can't. For instance, in 2025, we will have paid off the debt of the water tower 9 years in advance. And that means a lot to me from a taxpayer standpoint. we were able to purchase the wetlands and preserve them. We've installed charging stations for cars. We are on the cutting edge of almost everything. For a small town, that's quite a lot. We don't have a huge budget like Ocean City or Rehoboth, but we managed to do things because of you and the volunteers that we have that other towns can't. Solar panels, almost everything that's modern that's associated with towns, we are part of. Thank you.
Mr. Shepley, please.
The state of the town, I can sum it up in one word. It's great. I'm going to repeat a couple of the items just because I think they need some emphasis. We have a very strong financial position. We have adequate reserves. We our only borrowing on our balance sheet, as Jerry mentioned, is for the water tower that's going to be paid off in 2 years. We operate 2 enterprise funds at a break-even pace. Our operating fund runs at surplus, allowing continued contributions to capital projects, the SURF fund, et cetera. We have an extremely strong leadership in this town. Our town manager is by far the best town manager up and down this coast. His staff is outstanding. Every worker that we have is top-notch, does a great job. Our volunteers are unbelievable. And yes, if I may, even the council does an okay job. We have a beautiful town. Just look out the window. We are the envy of every town up and down the Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey coast. Jessica and her staff have won multiple awards and the envy of the coast. And Darren, I apologize a little bit for this. We're not in the news. And we're not in the news because we don't have bad news.
We're going to take that as a challenge.
We accept.
Mr. Tanowitz, please.
I think the financial condition of the town is without question. We never come in under budget. We typically get more revenues than we expect. We manage it conservatively, and it's a testament to just the overall perspective of the town and how we want to manage it. But I think you don't need to know about our finances you don't need to know much about our finances to just walk around and see the beauty, right? Why does Bethany choose to spend more on its streetlights when the Delaware DOT is willing to put in some streetlights? Because we want it to be beautiful. Why do we get the flowers that we get? Why do you see no graffiti here? Why is there no trash on the beach? Because we invest in these things and we keep it absolutely beautiful. I don't know that I've ever lived in or visited a town that I thought was better run than Bethany. There's not a single corner of this town that I look at and I say, wow, that can be improved. Look at the gorgeous park we have over here across the street with a family of eagles living in it. Where else do you have that? I think this town is absolutely incredible, and I think it's a testament to the work the council has done to date, the work the mayor has done, and the way this town has historically been managed.
Mr. Brothers, please.
It's tough following everybody without trying to come up with something new and not repeat a lot of things that they said, but I have to echo and support almost every comment up here about our town. It is unique on the East Coast. It is a unique town for its beauty, but also unique for its residents. And the residents make the town. They make it a pleasant place to live, pleasant place to visit. Everyone that we come in contact to talks about how friendly everyone is. You know, others before me talked about how strong our financial situation is, the strong reserves, the low debt, the actions of the council that have done things already, utilizing federal and state grants to improve various areas within the town has been very beneficial. I would like to see that piece continue and maybe even gain some more emphasis so that there's a lot of federal dollars out there that may come our way and keep it keep us on the cutting edge, as the council has already throughout the years. Thank you.
State of the town seems strong. Start with Mr. Morris for this next question. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing Bethany Beach over the next 2 years?
I think the biggest challenge that we have going in the future, not only the next 2 years, is pedestrian safety. In the summer months, this town population goes from 1,050 to estimates of 15 to 20,000 visitors. Crossing Route 1 is dangerous at best. We are in the second year of flashing crossing lights, giving pedestrians the right of way. Drivers are beginning to learn what those flashing lights mean, but I think we have a long way to go. We need crosswalks on Route 1 at Route 26. We've asked DelDOT to do this on several occasions, and they have turned us down many, many times. We've requested DelDOT to reduce the speed on Route 1 through Bethany, and they refuse to do that. People walk everywhere in the town, always in the wrong direction. Nobody faces traffic. They don't know when a car is coming or not coming. And unfortunately, with a lot of the e-vehicles that are on the street now, you can't hear them coming. So their safety is a big issue that we're trying to address. The Pedestrian Bicycle Committee has several initiatives where they're trying to address this. However, it's going to take education on many levels to get past this issue. Thank you.
Mr. Shepley, please.
Thank you. If you remember in my opening remarks, my background, I'm a CPA. So my top priority for the last 6 years, and would continue for the next 2 years, is we need to continue our strong fiscal controls and our conservative financial policies. And I would like to just say, led by Mr. Morris, this town does a great job of budgeting and watching our finances. We need to do this in order to accomplish any other goals that we set, because without strong finances, we either need to borrow funds or we may not be able to do projects. So I think that, from my perspective, is the number one priority. I would echo Mr. Morris's emphasis on pedestrian, bicycle, and auto safety, and I would add that we need to continue to explore and work with our neighboring towns and our state government to address the flooding situation in the town. Those last two items, pedestrian, bicycle, and auto safety, and flooding, are the top two items on every survey this town has ever done of our citizens. We need to keep focused on that. Thank you.
Mr. Tanowitz, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I see it as a tie between two important issues. I think stormwater management has got to be a continuing focus. We need to understand more about the dam and how it's going to affect things, and where our future challenges will be if that project goes forward. I think we all saw this year, we got roughly 5 inches of rain in, I think, 90 minutes to 2 hours, and there were some big problems. And I do worry when we see 3.5 feet of water by the firehouse. I worry about our first responders being able to get out and do their important work. And I think we just need to make sure that we understand exactly how to help the water flow. The permeable pavement has been a wonderful addition, but it takes an awful lot of maintenance to keep the sand out of it. So while I think it's wonderful, we also have to understand what the total cost of ownership looks like in these sort of improvements, and make sure that we don't lose sight of other valuable ways to manage water as well, on top of permeable pavement. Safety, I think, is the other big issue, and I don't think it's just pedestrian and biker safety. I think it's with the automobiles as well. I think we can improve signage. I think it's great that we have pedestrian lanes. I think it's great that we have bike lanes, but we often have pedestrians walking in bike lanes and bikers biking in pedestrian lanes. And with the advent of electric bikes, some of these bikes are moving very, very fast in these lanes. And if you can't hear an EV, you certainly can't hear a bike coming. I walk my dogs every morning here, and I cross Route 1, and sometimes I think that crossing Route 1, it's easier to avoid the cars than the other bikers, and I'm sure the bikers think it's easier to avoid the cars than it is to avoid the walkers. And, you know, not everybody is aware of all of their surroundings, but I think just some improved signage would go a long way. Signs that say bikes only, or no electric vehicles or something like that in the bike lanes would certainly help us out. I love the strobing lights that we have at certain crosswalks. I'd like to see passive entry. I'd like to see,
We at times, sirs.
there's my challenges.
I channeled my Mayor Hardman.
It's really hard to see your arm go up. Could you wave or something?
Do something.
I could, yeah. Mr. Brothers, sir.
Sure, the emphasis would be continued the efforts in effective stormwater management. There's numerous aspects, as everyone knows, to this topic that affect every property and business owner, especially those north of Garfield Parkway, all the way from Gibson here, all the way to Lake Bethany, and the properties along the Pennsylvania corridor that are affected. Efforts need to be continued to have a comprehensive approach from town ordinances on lot coverage, best practices and utilization of pervious materials and surfaces throughout the town, and the many swales and drainage systems that the town has in order to manage that water, and to the large project of the Loop Canal. All these efforts bring their own benefits to the problem in a specific way, and the town needs to continue that progress already. As for the Loop Canal project itself, there's been a tremendous amount of work, time and effort put into the project. Over the last month, I've gone back and listened to many of the presentations and reports from the committee and to the council. It's truly impressive, the scientific rigor studies that have been brought into that project. To move it forward, I'd like to see at the appropriate time a marketing plan that allows the town to leverage our state representatives and senator, and as well as our congressional representatives. Many of the sticking points have been our ability to work with DENREC and the Corps of Engineers, and I think their voices will have great power with them.
Ms. Gill, please.
I would like to see the town continue to support the businesses. A lot has been done to bring activities to the town in the shoulder seasons and the off seasons, extending the concerts into October, the Christmas festivals, the Fire and Ice Festival in January. I think anything the town can do to bring people in the winter when the businesses need business. We have more and more businesses that are open during the weekend, and they need customers. So anything the town can do to continue to do, to bring people in on the weekend, I think should be a point of emphasis in the future.
Next question, we'll start with Mr. Shepley. If there was one new initiative you'd like council to focus on over the next 2 years, what would it be?
New, not one that we haven't talked about here, but
Well, good luck, because you guys have talked about a lot of stuff.
well, I would like to mention one thing that we haven't talked about that's a huge initiative, and that is, the name of this town is Bethany Beach. We need beach replenishment on a regular basis to keep our beach. And we all know we just had it this past summer. We're going to need it again in 3-4 years. The federal government and the Corps of Engineers has set up a 50-year program to continue that, and we need, as a community, along with our fellow beach communities that have bonded together in an organization, to make sure that that continues. Make sure that the government realizes the importance that we, the beach communities, specifically Bethany Beach, provides for the state in terms of revenue. Tourism in Delaware is the second biggest industry. First one's agriculture. Second biggest industry for the state is tourism. We need our beach for that to happen, and we need those dunes in front for that to happen. Thank you. Oh, was that 30 seconds
That
more?
was. You
Oh, I'm
could've-
sorry, I should have known
Should
that.
use one hand.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Beach replacement.
Mr. Tanowitz, please.
Yeah, I think if there's a net new initiative, for me, it would focus on the local economy. I agree with what Ms. Keel said, that the focus needs to be how do we get the customers here, preferably during daylight hours, because I'd rather not see this place get loud at night. I kind of like our curfew and want to keep it. But I would like to see a more active off-season. I love the quietness of this town, but I think the business owners have an asset that deserves to be productive, and our town can benefit from that economic activity that comes in. And I'd like to see us be a little bit less dependent on the summer to fund the town for the year. We're always going to have our peak season. We're a beach, right? I don't think we're going to avoid that, but I do think that we can do more to support this town in the off-season. Maybe make it a little bit more expensive for shuttle buses to drop their people off here. But I think we can do the best we can to bring in the revenues from the people that are here and take advantage of some of the pockets of capacity that we have.
Mr. Brothers, please.
Mine also would be the support and growth of the local economy. It is vital for the continuing of a thriving community. Our businesses need smart solutions to their issues. The town needs the businesses to complete a well-rounded and sustainable community for the future. We need to, we're here in the off-season, so we see the empty streets and we see the empty businesses, so we do as much as we can to support those. Our son's hitting up DB Fry's every weekend when he gets home, so. But there's other solutions. Some of the board members have brought it up to bring people into the town in the off-season. A lot of the ideas have been great. I'd like to see some utilization of the park, and we get into the issue of pedestrian safety when crossing over, if everybody parks here and then goes over and utilizes the park, but greater utilization of the park for some of these festivals and art shows and crafts. If there's a way to incorporate that, will also bring more people in. That's what I have.
Ms. Keel, please.
So I'd like to see an emphasis on communications. The town has recently renewed a newsletter updating residents on issues and developments. It's been very well received. And the town actually has a lot of public information on their website, but you have to seek it out. And you have to click around and you have to find it. So anything the town can do to make the website more user-friendly, to push information out to the residents, because clearly people like the information. You're here on a Friday night in the summer because you guys like information. So anything the town can do to improve that, I think, is beneficial.
Mr. Morris, please.
Well, it's a tough act to follow. I agree that one of the things that we try to do is make Bethany more of a year-round town. Nobody wants to come visit or be here if it runs Memorial Day to Labor Day and then we close up sidewalks. And it's very difficult to get businesses to invest here because of that fact that we have been working on for several years now. Julie Molesky, who is our planning person, does an excellent job in the summer. She's helping us with the continued to spread out the seasons. We go now from the beginning of May almost through at the end of October, plus we have the boardwalk activities for the 2 fairs that we have, but that's not enough to keep people here coming more often in the wintertime. And the local people support the businesses that are here in the winter, but that barely keeps them going. So I think the emphasis has got to be on some action in that particular arena. The other thing that the town is looking at from an initiative standpoint is there's a big emphasis on electric everything. And whether or not there's a superstructure to support this or not, we don't know. However, the town does have electric lawnmowers. We've been looking at electric vehicles to replace some of the vehicles we have. Thank you.
Still at 30 seconds, I
Oh,
apologize.
30 seconds.
Keep
Okay.
going.
We're looking at to replace some of the vehicles we already have. Unfortunately, if you try to find an electric garbage truck, it's not very likely that you're going to find it. A lot of the pickup trucks are becoming that way, and we are replacing them as they are needed. We obviously can't replace vehicles that we've just bought in the last couple of years and invested taxpayers' money. But as they become available, we have the initiative that we're going to do those things when they become available. Now, we looked into buying some vehicles, however, 2-year waiting list. So it's not going to happen overnight.
We're going to open up to audience questions here. First off, can we give another round for these people who came here tonight? I ask that everybody be mindful, this is not a meeting of the sitting town council. There will be no votes on any issues this evening. We ask that you confine your questions to the candidates' opinions on issues and/or why they chose to vote the way they did on certain topics if they're incumbents. I was told by the IT people here to make sure you speak into the mic. If you move your head, move the mic. Get a little funky with it, have fun, I don't care. Just follow in directions. So if anybody, gentleman over there has got the microphone.
And so does
So does the mayor.
I was very glad to hear again, which I've heard before, safety of the bicycle. And by the way, Sean Bellinger. I live on Pennsylvania Avenue here. I'm here about 5 months a year, right down the street, take a right. Anyway, that area is really problematic with bicycles, pedestrians, and cars during the busy part of the season. And I know you want to balance the budget, but I contend that safety is the #1 issue in the town, that taking care of your citizens, and that becomes a very dangerous place, Pennsylvania Avenue. And I would ask, one, would you be willing to give up those parking spaces to widen that road, just like Atlantic is, which is a wonderful safe street now, where Pennsylvania Avenue is not, especially south of the city here, south of Garfield, but all the way over to at least where the businesses are. Secondarily, and I know this is probably a subject that may touch some nerves here, the park over here, I think, is severely underutilized. And if have any of you ever, visited the Millville Park and seen what they've done? They have a pavilion there where they can have a little concert, and I know we have our concerts here too, but they also have, dare I say, 3 pickleball courts, which is really very popular with our age bracket of citizens here. And thirdly, they have a nice walking path, they have exercise stations, and they have an excellent playground. Would you consider those 2 big questions? 1, getting rid of the parking so we can have a safer Pennsylvania Avenue, and 2, expand the park and really utilize that instead of just having people walking around and having their dogs poop next to the sidewalks out there.
I'd like to ask if Mr. Tanowitz can go first on this one, because he hasn't had an opportunity yet.
Thank you. So I happen to agree with you on Pennsylvania Avenue. So I'm the guy you see riding the tandem bike. Sometimes one of my kids is on the back, sometimes my mother-in-law. Sometimes she falls off. And, you know, my idea is every time I've ridden down there, I'd love to get rid of all the cars because I like it better when we walk and get to see each other. Cars are going to be here. At a minimum, I think we take the cars too close to the corners, and it makes it really hard to see when you're coming off of, you know, Hollywood Street or Parkwood and you're trying to cross over Pennsylvania. I'd like to do that was my idea. I understand, I see you shaking your head. I'd have to look into it because I don't like any of the cars around here. I even find the bike lanes a little bit unsafe there because of the way people walk in the bike lanes. So it's absolutely, to me, top priority. I don't know what the answer is, and it's something that I think we're going to have to study. On the park, I'm 100% with you. I think it's underutilized. I think it's gorgeous, but I don't see a whole lot of people there when I'm there. I kind of agree, as a dog walker, that I don't like seeing someone else's dog poop. I kind of get embarrassed when my dogs are pooping out and somebody sees them. And it would be my preference that if we could stick a dog park in the corner, we could kind of keep those dogs all in one place, socialize them, exercise them, and not ruffle the feathers of people whose homes it might be near. So I think there's a lot we can do to get more utilization out of it. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's great that we have the land, and I'd like to see more people using it.
I'm sorry.
When you said, usually don't need a mic. When you said about no cars or whatever, say on Pennsylvania Avenue, I noticed because I'm on the board with the farmers market too. And just to come out on Hollywood onto Pennsylvania and you inch and you inch and you inch. So are you suggesting that there are even less cars like back up the end space so that there's more of a pedestrian or whatever, a visual that's
That
open?
was my initial idea
or
when
no
I was
cars?
thinking about it from seeing how many cars are there. I don't know that we'll get to a world where there are no cars in Bethany or anywhere, and just Pennsylvania.
South side.
Just south side. I kind of like that
The
idea.
question is, would you give up the tax base to have more safety in that area?
Yeah, I don't think the parking is gonna make the difference in our budget, and frankly, I'd rather just increase the cost of parking for the people that park there, or give out more speeding tickets, or, I mean, parking tickets, or you know, speeding tickets. We stick a camera on Route 1. I don't know, I think there's plenty of ways to make up for the parking revenue that we would likely give up there. So I don't think that it would be terribly hard to offset that revenue. I was just saying that when I'm there, I just keep thinking the cars come too close, and we need a little bit more visibility.
Look, Mr. Brothers, would you like to weigh in on this?
Yes, in the past 2 years, I've had both my knees replaced, so this is the summer I've been able to walk, and I've put in almost 600 miles on the loop around Bethany. So I've seen it in the mornings, and I've seen it in the evenings. Part of Pennsylvania, initially, what I would like to see is a greater presence of the bike patrols, and the bike patrols to actually stop other bikers that blow through stop signs. That will, and also just having a police presence on Pennsylvania Avenue. The other high traffic times is the farmers market on Sunday mornings. There are no one's out for enforcement from the town as people come up Pennsylvania. People are walking on Pennsylvania and here at the choke point at the market. Also on Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings, the two places of here on Garfield, utilizing bike patrol personnel, other law enforcement to have a greater presence. It's going to slow down people. They can also educate people about direction of walking initially. Yes, if we can find other ways to offset, that would be a great idea to utilize, take the parking off from at least even one half of Pennsylvania so that it could be better utilized. The last thing is the parking marking within town is totally inconsistent. One corner, it's 4 feet, another corner, it's 60 feet. The town has to get some standardization so that the corners move back for people that don't have to edge forward to be able to get out and see, because we have to make sure we look at a person before we cross some of these crosswalks, so we don't get run over while we're walking.
Ms. Keel?
So that's an intriguing question. We've been actually gathering, as part of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee, we've been gathering ideas of things to focus on for 2024, and I'll add that to our list. I think it's worth looking at. Atlantic is a nicer street to walk on. I mean, that's objectively true. It just is. I don't know. I don't know enough to know what the impact financially would be, but it's worth looking at. As far as the park, I might be in the minority here, but I think if Bethany Beach being a quiet resort is the North Star we all look to, I think the tranquility of that park is nice. You know, I like pickleball and I like dog parks, but they're loud. And not everybody likes them. So, but I would say it's probably time for another survey. The town did a survey in 2016 asking the citizens what they would like in that park before it was built. That was a while ago. So now that the park is there and people have had a chance to use it, maybe it's time for another survey and see what, maybe I'm outvoted. And if that's the case, that's the case. And then there's pickleball in dog parks. Ask the people what they want.
Mr. Morris?
As far as Bethany, or as far as Pennsylvania Avenue is concerned, there have been studies, we have done studies on several occasions about the traffic patterns in Bethany itself proper. One of the suggestions, and I know that people on Pennsylvania Avenue would love this, is to make it a one-way street. You make it a one-way street, all the problems go away. I know they wouldn't like to have that. The other thing is you make it sound easy just to eliminate the parking. You eliminate the parking, or you're going to cut down a lot of the trees that are there. That's part of the ambiance of that street. So it's not just black and white. It's very difficult to come up with a sound solution that pleases everybody. Again, it'd be nice to come up with a quick solution to the problem, but I don't really think there is one. And as far as the budget is concerned, I think you'd be surprised how much parking brings into this town and what it does for you as citizens to keep your taxes down. As far as the park is concerned, if I lived in the neighborhood right around that park, I wouldn't want a pickleball court. My wife plays tennis. We have pickleball courts there. I do not play tennis. It's a loud sport. As far as a dog park is concerned, dog park, you can't put it 10 by 10. You're going to have a fairly decent sized spot, and it has to have fences. Do we want to have fences in that beautiful park? So and I agree, we could take another survey and see if with the majority of the people would like to have something like that or leave it like it is. It is underutilized. People don't recognize that you can have weddings there. You can have your family there. You can have picnics. Most of the time it is people walking around, walking their dogs and so forth. Thank you.
Mr. Shepley?
The easy answer to your question is, would I consider those things? The answer is yes. Okay? But and I think that is true for most issues that come before the council or issues that you want to bring to the council. We're open. We live here. We're your neighbors. We want to hear what suggestions you might have. We want to hear what you might bring to the table, and we'll consider it. As far as parking, the two specific items, parking on Pennsylvania Avenue, parking is one of the major sources of revenue for this town. In the fiscal year that just ended in March, we brought in over $2 million in parking. Jerry had mentioned earlier that one of the objectives when we create budgets every year is we want to match the expenses that are directly related to our summer events with the revenue that is generated during those summer events, that summer season. If we eliminate some or all of the parking on the south side, on the south end of Pennsylvania Avenue, we're going to have to make up that revenue somewhere. I'm not saying we can't or we can't look at options, but keep that in mind. It is a big revenue producer for the town that pays for our summer activities. Central Park, Ms. Keel mentioned we did one survey. We've actually done two major surveys of the town as a whole, in addition to having multiple public meetings before that park was designed and built. And we built it to the desires, if you will, the specifications of what the majority of residents in the town that voiced an opinion wanted. And dog parks, pickleball didn't exist back then, or it certainly wasn't as popular as it was. But though the dog park was not a major item, I think it was less than 5% of the people, if I remember correctly, wanted a dog park. Is that it? Or, okay, sorry.
Well, I want to thank you for bringing dog poop so prevalent into this conversation. Who's our next question?
Hello. I guess this is working okay. The question, it's not working?
No, it is. It is.
All right, I'll try this. My concern is for the stormwater management specifically, and I believe what we need to do is we need to address the environmental issues of the town. I think it's wonderful that we put the porous versus non-porous surface coating on properties, which is very helpful and wonderful, although what I'm seeing is people believe it's unenforceable. And so I'm not quite sure how well that's going to work. Our trees are being taken down at a breathtaking rate in this town. It's just amazing to see contractors come in, clear a property, or worse is the landowners and the homeowners that come in and then remove the rest of the trees that are on the property. And these are mature trees. So removal of the tree canopy. My question is, how are each of these individuals going to address the environmental concerns that are going to happen in the future with managing water? My other thing was drains and swales. They don't seem to be putting them in for new buildings from what I can see. So how would you address the enforceability of what we have and perhaps develop other things to enhance the stormwater management?
Mr. Brothers, I'm going to give you first chance here.
For the swales and the drains, especially in new properties, Susan does enforce that because right next to our house, new property has gone in, and we've experienced the difference changing in elevation of one property to the next for a new build, and how she addresses that. So we've been fighting that ourselves this summer. The other drainage systems, I think, need to be looked at. One, they're starting to get clogged. They're starting to get heavy silt. Some we don't own on Route 1, I believe, belong to DelDOT, so it has to be a coordination. But the ones within town need to be looked at for the silt buildup and the trash that are in them to be cleaned. The pervious surface materials, I think the landscapers, most of the landscapers that are familiar with town are utilizing those. They understand the codes that are put in place, and I've seen, I've seen Susan come out and the building inspector make sure that those properties are done. Does somebody sneak under the wire? I'm sure it may happen. But those are all aspects of doing the rainwater management, the stormwater management.
Ms. Keel?
So I have to admit, this is not my area of expertise, building codes, and I'm not an expert on how Susan does her job, but I think the questions are valid. I think there are certainly towns, and I know there are subdivisions and HOAs that regulate who can take down a tree and how it comes down. I'd be surprised if there isn't a code, but if there isn't, we can certainly look at one. As for drains and swales, my experience with the town is that when we've had a clogged swale, we call somebody and they come and they take care of it the next day. And I know the town has a list of areas that get clogged more often than others, and they check them on a regular basis. They're open drains, so I don't think you can stop them from getting clogged, but you can, if there's an area that I'm not familiar with, then please call the town. They'll add it to their list. They'll take care of it. They take care of ours.
Mr. Morris?
Yes, it's interesting that this should be brought up because one of the new ordinances that the town has just enacted is a green effort. you're not allowed as a builder to come in and clear cut a lot anymore. There was 3 lots down in the Tingle area that the builder came in and wiped out trees. He did that without permission. And we stopped him building for quite some time as a result of that. And now you are required to have a certain number. First of all, Susan will go in and they will look at the lot and decide where the house is going to be, and then the trees that are not affected can't be cut down. The other thing is that when you build on a lot that doesn't have trees, you're required to put a certain number of trees in to help the situation. As far as the swales are concerned, the town tries its best to keep ahead of this, recognizing the fact that we are in a low area. I have the same problem as everybody else in this room, that when it rains, I have water in my grass. I can walk, it's soggy. But the town tries to keep the swales open. I won't say it's a perfect thing, but if you do have a major problem, call the town, make a complaint, and they will come out and see what they can do about it.
Mr. Shepley.
I'd like to add that the town has an ordinance that requires property owners to clean swales in front of their house. Given that, the town also comes out throughout the town and cleans problem swales, the swales that they know clog up regularly, as often, as quickly as they can. And as Ms. Keel mentioned, if you call the town with a problem, in this case, a clogged swale, I can almost promise you that they're going to be out quickly to at least look at it and see what the town can do or what you may have to do. Jerry mentioned the ordinance about trees. We passed 2 green ordinances last year, one concerning trees. A year ago, I might be off by a little bit of time, you could clear cut a lot. You bought a lot or you owned a lot and wanted to build a house, boop, every house could be gone. It happened in my development in Lake Bethany. You can't do that anymore. We have passed an ordinance stipulating what has to be done or what can't be done on existing trees on a particular lot. And as Mr. Moore said, if you don't have trees, you may be required to plant trees. The same with pervious pavement. You cannot pour concrete all over your yard because you don't want to mow the lawn or any other reason for that matter. If you're going to build a house or renovate a house, you're going to have to comply with our ordinances on the amount of non-pervious pavement you can put. And Susan Frederick enforces these things. She is really good. I just want to mention also that both of those ordinances that are new, when we passed them, we said we know they're new and we know they may not be perfect. So we, the council, are willing to look at those items in a year and a half, in 2 years to see if they may need some adjustment.
Mr. Tanowitz.
Yeah, I think that, we have to recognize that Bethany is a town of individual homes. We don't have subdivisions. We don't have homeowners associations that can manage stormwater in larger pieces. So we are sort of individually responsible for the care and maintenance of our property. But I think the town does incredible work to keep them clear. I mean, we saw what happened this year in July after our big storm. It was actually pretty impressive what the town did to clean out the swales. But in terms of what I think we can do to improve it, and you heard Mr. Shepley talk about the new ordinances, which I think are a step in the right direction. And I think it's important that we revisit them. I'm not crazy about the way, I am crazy about the way Susan enforces our rules. I think she does an excellent job. I'm not crazy about the way the ground coverage requirements have been written. I think they are unfavorable to people that have older homes that are smaller, and I think they're easier to comply with if you're building a larger home on the property. They were a step in the right direction, and I don't know that we could have taken a better step in the right direction. But the way they're written, they look at a percentage of your land without regard to the size of the home on the land. So if you build a home up to your lot limits, you're likely not very impacted by the coverage requirements because the amount of land and the rules and what you can cover is greater than the land you have available. But for those of us that have a lot of land available, you get to be more restrictive, and it becomes harder to improve. For example, what I had to do in order to, am I done?
30 seconds.
What I had to do in order to comply was actually rip up my driveway and make it pervious, which is a good thing to do, but for someone else, that might be financially impossible, and then you're in a situation where someone doesn't create improvement because of the way the rule is written. So I think as a council, we'll look at these things and we'll improve them.
Next question, please.
Thank you. My name is Don Brown. I was chairman of planning for over 8 years, through two different mayors.
A little bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. What I find rather interesting, the gentleman put the glasses on, it indicated in the, that you have changed something in the ordinance as far as who was responsible for taking drainage off of their property.
What I said was the homeowner is responsible for the maintenance of the swale in front of their home. I was not referring to any kind of drainage off their property, although we have ordinances about that. It was mentioned a little bit earlier that there can be problems with a new home adjacent to, say, your home that's elevated more than your home. We don't allow people to build a structure where their water is going to run into another home's property. You can't do that.
No, but now how about as far as,
I was referring specifically to the swales.
as far as the town is concerned, they should be responsible for taking care of the swales that maybe your swale has run into, and they do not abide by that.
Are you saying the town does not abide by that?
That is
The
correct.
town does not clean?
The
Are you talking
swales.
about a specific swale or in general?
In general,
I believe the town does
I believe that
periodically
I think
go
I
out
believe
and
you better
clean
check it
swales.
okay.
They do. And we've hired outside contractors to do that work in the past.
Well, the one on another step here. We have had serious flooding throughout Pennsylvania Avenue for many, many years. I've been here since 1984, built my house in '84. And we've had nothing but flooding, and nothing has been done. Now, as far as you folks up there, I know there's letters that have come out telling of what your plannings are to get onto the council. And every one of you, all three of you now, have indicated that flood control is a major issue. But yet, I have never seen anything being done.
Well,
You want to take that one, or you want me to take that one?
I'll start. Flooding and water accumulation has been a problem in this town since way before your time. And
I used to visit
it's still an issue. It's an issue that is forefront in our minds. But it just in case anyone's not aware, we have a potential, I don't want to say just a complete erasement of the problem, but we are looking at the possibility of installing it was originally called a bladder dam, it's now called a steel dam at the mouth of the Loop Canal where it hits the Assawoman.
Can I stop you there?
I'm sorry?
Can I stop you there?
Yeah,
We originated that.
great. That's great. For
On the
years,
rubber dam.
for years, and I don't doubt that because it's not really a new idea.
No.
But we have not been allowed to do it in the past because it was claimed by, I believe, the Army Corps of Engineers that all we were doing is moving the water from our problem to somebody
Not
else's.
true. Not true. We met with the Corps of Engineers, and we found that they approved everything that we had put into the plans to put that rubber dam in. We could have had the rubber dam put in for $1 million. Now, if try to get it done for $1 million today, although you have $2 million in just off of the revenue that you got from parking. But that's a continuous thing. Another thing, the pipes are broken on Pennsylvania Avenue. We did a search on that. We not only did a search, but we also had a robot put in at 4th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. The pipe was broken. And we have worked with the town as much as we possibly can, and nothing has ever occurred to take care of those broken pipes.
Can we get to a question, please, sir?
I'm sorry?
Can we get to a question here? It seems to be a debate that would be better
Yes,
for the
yes.
sitting town council.
Jerry, maybe you
Let me follow up on what Patrick has been saying. The town's been working since 2018, 2019 on the very solution that you're talking about. In March of 2020, we allocated $251,000 to come up with proceed with the preliminary design of the dam that is at the connection of the Assawoman and the Loop Canal. This, after studies, go back, we've had several studies done, and like Patrick said, a lot of the problem that we ran into was you're going to force the water onto Ocean View. We've had studies that prove that that's not going to happen. So we're proceeding with the dam design. We've allocated money to come up with a design, and we are we've got a preliminary estimate of $2 million to put that design in act. We're looking at grants and so forth to actually have that done. Is it going to solve all the problems of flooding? It should solve about 90% of the problems that we have now, because where the water comes from, it comes from the Loop Canal, it goes through and it floods Pennsylvania Avenue. I recognize that. When I moved here in '84, we had that problem ever since I've been here. So we are addressing the problem, we are proceeding. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Probably not, but we are addressing the issue.
Hasn't for 40 years.
I can't tell you what happened 40 years ago. All I know is that the council that's involved right now is trying to do something about it.
Would any of the challengers like to step in?
Sure. Like I said earlier, I've gone back over, and it's dry. The committee's reports and the committee's and the reports out to the council. Many of the barriers are with DENREC. DENREC owns the land, so DENREC you have to do all your permitting through DENREC. You have to get the approvals through DENREC. Then you have the Army Corps of Engineers, who have, at each study, there was the LIDAR study, which finally proved the ability of where the water came, what was going to be the source of
Very familiar
water.
with the LIDAR.
Right. And then they came on to another requirement of a 2D study. So the 2D study needed to be conducted. And the town has allocated all the money for that. The government, I've worked in 35 years, Washington, D.C., it's a slow process with the government. It's important to us, but we are only one project of DENREC. We are only one project of the Corps of Engineers. They have their criteria for economic impact, our economic impact versus another town's,
Okay, let me
things
stop
on
you
the
right there.
Mississippi.
We had the blessing from DENREC to put that dam in. That goes back into the early 2000s.
I'd like to see the paper. I mean, from what I've
So would I
seen.
now, after all this time.
Well, it's got to be in a record, because what I've seen is the council and Mr. Gravier from 18 on address each step, each thing that the DENREC has thrown up. They've come back with problems from DENREC. Now, you might have solved it with the DENREC guy 20 years ago, but the DENREC guy tonight may not be the same.
Because Bob Parsons was the first one that I was chairman with. And I believe you'll find that the plans, the comprehensive plan, it has something in there, but not about the dam, because that comes on later on into the early 2000s. But you do find something in the early 2000s under, under Charlie Bartlett. He was the mayor at that time.
I guess then why didn't he build it?
Yes, we'd like to know the same thing because you couldn't get the money.
That's part of the issue
It
today.
had nothing to do with Uncle Sam.
Mrs. Keel, would you like to
Because that
step
was
in here?
that was $1 million at that time.
Mr. Stanowitz?
I
I
don't have
think the
anything to
council
add.
is addressed it.
Right.
If I could just quickly say, in my opinion, the potential of this steel dam to solve 90+% of our rainy day or nuisance flooding, not a hurricane, not a nor'easter, but the rainy day type flooding, this dam has the potential to solve 90% or more of that type of flooding for us. It's very, very promising. But as Mr. Brother said, we've got to go through a number of hoops and steps to get this approved, and that's what we're doing.
And that's primarily through the Corps?
DENREC,
Denrick.
primarily.
Right, Corps of Engineers, yeah.
No, that's different.
Oh,
This is the
FEMA.
state.
Okay.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Are you sure? Bethany Beach
don't know where that
took
came
that away from the state. Pennsylvania Avenue is not owned by the state.
What's
Yeah,
our next question? Do we have another question coming up?
Yeah, another question.
I'm sorry, somebody had a question? Oh, I'm sorry.
So much. Thank you. And you know what? He's right.
That's right.
Bottom line, we have a problem in town, and the town council is trying to solve it, and it does take forever. I remember rafting on Pennsylvania Avenue when it would rain. That was in what, the 60s? So I'm old. Question. Jerry, you suggested Pennsylvania Avenue be one way. What would be the other one way?
Probably Atlantic.
And so from,
I don't have all the
I'm just
details
curious.
of it, but they talked about one-way streets, and unfortunately, when you create a one-way street, you have to have a street going the opposite
Right.
direction, and you have to have cross streets. And it becomes very difficult to make that happen.
so make sure everybody understood. And Mr. Tanowitz, you said about they're single homes and not HOAs, but there are HOAs within Bethany, right? Don't you all have? So there are.
that's not what he said.
There are, yeah, Bethany West and everything, okay. I just want to make sure. About the swales and the ditches. Our swale is behind the house. It's not in front, because we're not in Bethany West. Bethany West put swales in, or ditches in the front of their homes along the road, which I think is kind of dangerous anyway, but it's not I'm not the queen. So my thing is, though, you said that they do come through and clean regularly. And they don't. Whoever said, do they, and was questioning, they just came through this past spring, and that was the first time I've seen them in years. I usually, again, as the person who has to do that, and I try to do my neighbors also in the back, and I really can't do that anymore. So that would be a good thing. But my question is, how effective do you know, or are you willing to find out with an outside source, how effective the current ditches and swales are in doing what we think they're doing for us, and then either filling them in or doing something else, but without taking trees down, please. That was suggested. That's my question. Would you be willing to get an outside source to look at the viability of our current ditches and swales?
And are you referring throughout the entire town, I assume?
Ms. Keel, we're going to give you.
So I theoretically, yes, I think there could be a study. I think it's probably a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money and a lot of time. But theoretically, yes, it could be done.
We have one thing. What
That would be my question is, the swales are there, if you're familiar with Route 1 or any major highway, they have what they call borrow pits. They borrow the land and bring it up to create up. Florida's a good example of it. The whole state's like that. And then the water goes into the swale. And unfortunately, in a little town like Bethany, swales is unfortunately the easiest way to solve a problem. It sounds easy to say, put a pipe in. But how does the water get into the pipe? Where do you pump it to? Do you pump it to the next street? I mean, it's not an easy solution. We are doing aerial surveys of the area, trying to figure out a better way to solve problems. I will say this, you all recognize where we live. We're at sea level, and some of us, like Pennsylvania Avenue, are below sea level. And when it rains, the water has no place to go. You know, we're trying to do things with impervious surfaces, impervious streets, and so forth. But again, all that takes money, and it's always taxpayers' money. We try to get grant money. We've been getting as much grant money as we can to solve some of these problems, but it's not an endless pocket that we can delve into.
Mr. Shepley.
Unfortunately, a number of our problems in this town are extremely difficult. Doesn't mean we shouldn't look at them. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try to find solutions or at least improvements. We are aware of problems with swales. I'm not sure we have come up with a practical, affordable solution. Doesn't mean we're not going to continue to look, and as I think Mr. Moore said, or it might have been Ms. Keel, we are doing some aerial surveys to try to determine exactly what the problem is, where it is, and what may be done to improve that situation. I'd just like to emphasize what a remark that Jerry made. This town, which is 1 square mile, 2/3 of us are below sea level. It's primarily east of Route 1, north, and north of 26. But there's other areas. So 2/3, literally 67% of the town is below sea level. Not at sea level, below. It's tough to move the water. But we're not giving up. I certainly don't want you to think that. We are not giving up. We are willing to listen to suggestions, ideas. We're not smart enough to have all the answers ourselves or all the ideas.
Mr. Tanowitz?
Yeah, I suspect that there are no simple solutions to complex problems, and there are no cheap solutions to complex problems. And in a town that's only 1 square mile, what's our tax base? What's our revenue base? And I think we have to be practical and do what's within our means. And it may not be the best solution that we could create because we're limited by the funds we have. But I'm pretty sure that it's a priority for the town, and it's a priority for all of us, right? We live, most of us, live below sea level, and those of us that aren't are only a few feet from it. So we're all facing the same problem, and none of us want the water in our homes.
Mr. Brothers?
I've said most of what I had to say in support of this. The town has been doing an excellent job. They've been moving the ball forward. Each hurdle they've had to address. The swales, whether they're effective or not, I'm not sure if one of the past LIDAR surveys show that the number of inches that will come in a rain event, what parts of the town are effective. I thought there's one slide that does show that. So it would show that, at 4 inches of rain over an X amount of time, this amount comes in, and the swales do handle that, but after the 5th inch, it's not. but I think one of the studies does address that.
Does.
Any more questions?
Thank goodness.
I want to comment that Mr. Morris looked at me and said, stick a pipe in it a couple minutes ago,
I didn't hear that.
but we're okay with it.
We're okay? Do you want to start?
So, I'd like to thank everybody who came. Mayor, did you have some
Are
words
we,
you'd like to say?
is this finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'd like to give a round of applause to Darren. For having the courage year after year to come out here and do this. Thank you, Darren. And thank you, everyone, for attending and those who
Wait a minute,
attended
Are we
virtually.
going to get closing remarks?
Yeah.
It's been, do you guys want closing remarks?
So
Mine's only a half an hour.
no,
People vote.
I just have,
Who wants closing
first of
remarks
all, wait a minute. I want to thank everybody for being here and thank you for having this event. I would encourage you to come to the council meetings. And I would also encourage you to come to the committee meetings. They're open to the public. They're advertised on the website. They're advertised at the post office, or at the library, on the boardwalk, at town hall. There's no reason not to know that these committee meetings exist and you are invited. You should come and see the many, many volunteers that this town has that keeps it going. And don't forget to vote for me on the 9th.
I think he stole my closing remarks.
Let's
Thank
thank
you,
the
guys.
candidates here for coming out here tonight.